Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel and another Fragrance Friday. A little bit revisiting some of the fragrances that I've shown off and on this summer. I've had a real kind of buying splurge during lockdown with Tom Ford fragrances. There seem to have been quite a few releases and what's kind of hooked me is that they've started regularly doing what they call these travel sizes in quite substantial packaging. There isn't a huge amount of product, of course. Is it 10 mil? I should know this, and I don't, and it doesn't actually say on the bottle. That's how it looks when you kind of take it out of the flask. I'm assuming you can buy refills, but they're certainly not on the website, and I haven't had the chance to go in store yet. I suspect they won't have them in department stores who stock Tom Ford. Yeah, just checking the... Oh, hold on a minute. This might say... It's so tiny, but I'm pretty sure it's maybe 10 mil. I'll check that out, and if it's something different, I'll put it in the description box. But these are £60 each. I'm not sure whether that was the same price because it's a slightly different packaging, but it's another kind of travel size. And that's ridiculously expensive, and you can tot up straight away how much I've spent on perfume this year, and I bought other things as well. But I do love a good fragrance, and I've really missed in lockdown smelling new fragrances on other people and kind of saying, oh, I really like your perfume, what is it? Or getting a spray when I visited a department store, or getting samples when I've been in the boutique. You get sometimes odd little samples when you buy from Chanel or Dior or whatever, but it's never the good stuff that I would want. And Tom Ford just never sends samples, which I think is a bit mistaken actually, because their perfumes are so pricey that, you know, even if you have sampled and tested it on your skin and walked away and seen how it develops, it's still a big investment, I think, until you've worn a perfume a number of times to know whether you really, really like it. And it's all very well if you're paying like 37 quid or 45 quid or whatever. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money for some people, but it's, you know, it's a reasonable amount for that luxury, even if you end up not absolutely loving the perfume. You'll wear it. But the Tom Ford, especially the kind of exclusive selection, you're talking about 200 quid for their bigger bottles. So that's a lot of money to spend, even if you absolutely love a fragrance. And it's definitely not something to spend speculatively. So particularly when I was stuck at home, I have been tempted by these travel sizes, and I've bought most of them completely on spec. So I read the descriptions, but I've not known what they smelt like until I got them. The exception to those was the Neroli Portofino, which has been in the collection for a while, and I had smelt before in store and knew that I quite liked. And it's probably the most generic of these anyway, being a kind of what I would call an eau de cologne based fragrance. I'm sure Tom Ford wouldn't love me for saying that, or Estee Lauder wouldn't love me for saying that, but the others were all new to me, and I thought it would be quite fun. I think I have talked about all of them by now, just to kind of rank them really. I will say at the outset, I think there's only one of them that I would consider definitely buying again. I don't actively dislike any of them. One of them, so number 6, should we go in reverse order? I don't really like, I have to say. I'm going to struggle to use it up. I may flog it on eBay, I don't know. I may try and use it up. And it's this one. It's Bitter Peach. So I'm quite surprised I don't like it more. Maybe shouldn't be. Fruit fragrances. obviously, you know that I tend to like citrus fruit. I'm, more on the fence with other fruit fragrances because they can be done really badly rather cheaply. They kind of often feature as a very synthetic note. I mean, all fragrance is synthetic these days, but you get very synthetic notes in kind of cheaper, girly teenage perfumes or the kind of Victoria's Secret numbers. But I kind of thought better of Tom Ford, and I think this was a release last year, if I recollect correctly, and the initial reviews were pretty good, so I was excited to try it. And it isn't just a straightforward peach fragrance. You definitely get, I would say, soft fruit, and probably peach, and a kind of boozy undertow. And again, I often kind of like, or I like some alcohol kind of smelling perfumes, but I don't really want to smell like peach liqueur. And there's a kind of element of that. And there is this definite bitterness there, which just doesn't work on my skin, I have to say. So this one is the most disappointing for me, and I'm not really very keen at all. Not my thing. Next along, bit of a toss-up between Lost Cherry and the new one, Soleil Brûlant. And I'm going to say Lost Cherry because I'm only just starting to wear Soleil Brûlant, and it may grow on me or it may detract on me. Again, I suppose we're getting a bit of a theme here, cherry, so fruit. But again, I was quite excited about this one. I don't hate it. I think it's quite well done for what it is. I feel it's definitely a winter perfume. I'd wear it at Christmas because, as well as the cherry, there's the definite almond, particularly in the dry down. It's not, totally making you smell like a Bakewell tart, but, there's that definite fruit and nut, which is not all that sophisticated. But it's pleasant and it's wearable. And actually the last on it isn't huge, so it's not like it's kind of, there too much in your face. But I think it's very overpriced. I wouldn't, pay Tom Ford money for this again. I do think the red flask looks rather wonderful. I'm having to be careful because if you put them very close to each other, they're very magnetised, so that's what happens. Then sadly, next along is Soleil Brûlant, which I won't say a lot about because I have reviewed it very, very recently. I absolutely love this gold flask. I mean, there was no way I was not going to get that. And I would love to be able to put something else in it because it's great. Just a bit kind of too burnt fragrance for me, really. But it's definitely a summer night's fragrance. It is wearable. Again, not a brilliant last given the price. And of the kind of Soleil fragrances that they've done, I kind of put it there in the middle, I guess, of them. I've had a few of them. I'm not great on the kind of tuberose, frangipani, rose fragrances, and that's there in this one. And definitely it's a slightly more unusual brew because there is this kind of leather underlay that I talked about when I was introducing it to you the other week, but I won't buy it again. On the fence whether it's worth the £60 or not. Then these two pretty close together, to be honest. This is Solei Nege, and having said I don't like tuberose or anything like that, this is said to be a tropical tuberose. That's how it's described. It's definitely floral. I don't really get tuberose. I get very light floral. It definitely has this light, airy mood to it, shall we say. So I can see the kind of advertising features where they talk about it, you know, kind of being a winter snow perfume, light and crisp. I definitely get that, and I do like it. I think it's very feminine. This is not, to me, a unisex fragrance at all, which a lot of the Tom Fords are. Would I buy it again? Probably not. You know, I do like some florals, but they're not generally my favourites. But I do think it's a nice formulation. Definitely worth having a sniff. So kind of second to favourite is in a way a bit boring because it's Costa Azura. That's described as an aromatic aquatic, I think. No, what am I doing? I'm talking about something completely different. It's a citrus, really. And it's a few years old now. I think it's been around for good 5, 6, 7 years, if not a bit more. I get neroli with citrus from this. A fairly straightforward neroli citrus, glamorized eau de cologne, I would call it. There's a bit of lavender there in it. I do think it smells more expensive than and kind of more subtle than your average, you know, 911 eau de cologne. It's very wearable in hot weather. It doesn't have a brilliant last. These fragrances often don't, but you kind of expect a bit more when you're paying 60 quid to Tom Ford for them. But it is nice. It's not my favourite of this type of, again, I'm going to call eau de cologne type summer day fragrance. My favourite is probably Aqua De Palma. Still, after all these years, I think is beautifully done, beautifully balanced, a bit creamier than this. But it is a nice one. It's very wearable. If there was an offer on it, or I was, you know, just looking for a travel perfume to a hot place to alternate with my kind of favourite ones for that, which, you know, I love Creed. Yeah, I might consider it, but otherwise I wouldn't buy again. The one that I would consider buying again is this one, interestingly enough, and I didn't like it that much from the first spray. This is Costa Azura. This is the aromatic aquatic, which I think is a reformulation of one they did in their special edition collection some time ago. And I remember reading about it and people saying it was considerably weaker than that one. And people weren't terribly complimentary who'd had the original. I don't think it has a brilliant last on the skin. Having said that, it's one of those fragrances that, along with others that I often like, I can smell it on my clothes or my pillow long after I've last been wearing it. So it does kind of hang around. I just find it very clean. It's definitely a bit woody. One of the notes is ambrette, and I'm surprised about that. One of the top notes, because I tend not to like ambrette. I tend to hate ambrette, but I don't get it in this. It doesn't offend me at all. I just kind of get the woodiness. I will say I remember reading that people felt it smelt a bit like Aqua De Gio by Armani. It's a long time since I've smelt that. That one was around for a long time. I think it was a 90s perfume. I mean, this is supposed to have top notes of seaweed and I think other oceanic, which I sort of get the oceanic. I would describe it as a kind of slightly heavier, woody oceanic, like those kind of 90s perfumes. And maybe there's a kind of touch of nostalgia in it from the 90s, which is why I like it so much. But I have enjoyed wearing that. And it's kind of interesting one for summer because it's not kind of the eau de cologne citrusy or the light florals that we often think of. And I haven't smelt anything that like it out there at the moment. I'm sure there are perfumes that are out there that are like it. So this is the one that I would consider getting a full bottle of or repurchasing. and probably actually the only one of those. So it's been an interesting and slightly expensive experiment, and it's a nice treat during these lockdown times to have something nice to smell. But I think that's probably it for me with Tom Ford for a little bit. Famous last words. I'll probably come out with some great release that I'll be dying to try. So interested to know if any of you, I know there are Tom Ford makeup fanatics out there who leave comments. I don't know so much. I know there are fragrance fanatics as well. Don't know how many of you have tried many of the Tom Fords. Always like to hear what your favourites are and what you recommend. And until next time, keep well, keep safe, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye for now.